love note for March 8th. So since it's Monday, today is the day that I show my business a little love through the love notes and share ways that my business can show you some love as well. So this has been a fun week. Next Monday, we kick off the first Sexual Energy Alchemy group. So it's a program, and it's really an immersion into how to harness and amplify the power of the sacral energy, so that energy that we all hold within us, that's related to things like passion and pleasure and creativity and birthing new creations in the world and connection and receptivity and flow, like financial flow, even all that yummy good stuff that helps life feel juicier and more exciting and more aligned with our soul. That's what we're jumping into in that group. And I am so excited by the people who are in it. We're going to have a great time. We've got room for a couple more folks in that group. So if you're interested in a 12-week kind of deep dive into all things sacral and the idea of sacred pleasure being a path to living a life that's more in alignment with your soul and your passion, then I would love to invite you into that group. One thing that came out of that group so far, though, that I wanted to share is that some of the folks in the group, when I did the free 5-day Reclaim Your Inner Flame training, some of the folks said, some of these concepts are kind of new to me. So some of the basic spiritual, leaning into your intuition, working with your intuition, with your spiritual guidance, with your spiritual gifts, that kind of thing, that was an area where they really were interested in a bit more understanding and assistance there too. So what I decided to do is actually make my Warrior of Light program available as a gift to the folks in the Sexual Energy Alchemy program. So Warrior of Light is, basically a 6 to 8 week basic training that gets into the fundamentals of spiritual development. So all the things I just mentioned, working with the clairs, your different spiritual gifts, really tapping into your guides, your best way for communicating with your guides, how to bring your spiritual purpose and like your life's mission out into the world in a bolder, bigger way, and how to really tap into that leading essence of love as your number one superpower for working on behalf of the light and disarming the dark in every single thing that we do, whether it's our business, our family, our relationships, our, just the way we operate in the world. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, maybe the sexy talk isn't necessarily your thing, but you are interested in some spiritual development work, the Warrior of Light basic training program is incredibly fun, and it's deep. I mean, there's a lot of rich material in that particular program as well. So they're both available. If you sign up for the Sexual Energy Alchemy program, you get the Warrior of Light program for free. It's amazing. So that's the other thing with that too is that we've got the OMG-Spot podcast that has been, we're in season 2 now, just came out with another new episode last Wednesday. So new episodes drop every Wednesday. That particular podcast, OMG-Spot podcast, Pillow Talk for the Soul, Elise Shellman and I'm having so much fun teaming up with her on these conversations. It's like we bring the juiciness out of each other, which if you've ever heard a blush, if you don't know what a blush sounds like, you can listen to the podcast and hear me blush, because that happens an awful lot. But we really dive into some interesting topics. I had a friend listen recently and he said, your podcast really isn't about sex. He said, now you talk about sex. He said, but it's really more about life and looking at life through kind of this particular lens of sacred pleasure. I'm like, bingo, you kind of nailed it there, because that's really what we do. The last podcast that dropped, it was about diving into sacred pleasure as like an adventure in personal growth and surrendering and breakthroughs of consciousness and understanding, becoming more aware about ourselves, the kind of way we'd like to lean into the juicier sides of life, and how we can use sacral energy to do that. And so the podcast and the 12-week program really go nicely hand in hand in talking about and addressing a lot of the similar topics. Of course, the 12-week program gives people an opportunity to apply it all very personally with a whole lot of guidance and personalized tools to help them kind of make that leap in in their own understanding of themselves, how they relate to their body, to their world, to their relationships, things like that. So the OMG Spot podcast, if you haven't checked it out, it's available anywhere you get your podcasts. We've also got a page here on Facebook where you can find it as well. The other podcast, the Dirt Road Divinity podcast, is back in season 2 as well. Last week, the podcast that went up was with Deborah Worthington, and she is one of the owners of Transcendent Tulsa, which is this really interesting business in Tulsa that works to bring, it basically works to create these creative, safe spaces for like experiential learning and growth. And she really deals specifically with non-ordinary states of awareness or non-ordinary states of consciousness. So this is a way to learn more about yourself and about your own spiritual journey without necessarily having to tap into ayahuasca or peyote or DMT or whatever your mind, consciousness altering choice of substance might be. That they offer all kinds of other ways to get there as well, whether it's through breath work or through a Lucia light or through shamanic drumming or just a whole bunch of other tools. And they're located there in Tulsa. The cool thing about the conversation with Deborah is she is such an advocate for Tulsa. And she was really talking about like the little mini renaissance that's happening in the city, especially as it pertains to like higher levels of consciousness and how many opportunities there are for people right here in Oklahoma to really explore and reach out and find community and find these safe spaces where this work is being promoted and encouraged in a way that is incredible from a personal development perspective. So I do encourage you to go listen to that episode of Dirt Road Divinity. You can find that also wherever you listen to podcasts, but also on the Dirt Road Divinity page here on Facebook. So I'll put both of those links in the write-up. But she's great. She talked about H2 Oasis as well, which is a float center in Tulsa. So if you haven't ever experienced like sensory deprivation in an Epsom salt bath tank, fascinating. It's just absolutely fascinating. And so, there was a lot of conversation around opportunities for diving into experiences like that. If you know anyone who might be a great guest for the Dirt Road Divinity podcast, or maybe that's you, I would love to hear about it. I'm working to set up new guests coming up for the rest of the season. And really, I'm interested in talking with people who are willing to talk to me about their spiritual journey. And especially if the spiritual journey is of more of the dirt road variety, because not everybody's path to diving into their soul and connecting with their version of the divine happens in a well-paved path to the pew. For many of us, it is on the more dirt roads, on the messy, windy, muddy, rocky roads. Maybe it's at the top of a mountain. Maybe it's on a riverbank. Maybe it's somewhere else at the ocean, wherever. But everybody's journey matters, and none of the journeys have to look the same. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast, is to normalize the idea that you can have your journey in your way, in a way that's meaningful to your heart and your soul and your mind. And that's great. That's great. However you connect with the divine in your way is fantastic. And so I just love to have these conversations with folks where they share about their own particular journey and what they've learned along the way. What else do we have? Oh, my book. I blew up my book. So I've been in the process of writing the second book, and life, there's a whole lot of life that happened from the time I started to write the second book to now. So I blew up the book. And I'm so freaking stoked about having blown up the book. I think the book is going to be a ton better. And actually going down the Dirt Road Divinity path now with the book, and it's become more memoir-esque, which is a little scary, and really encouraging to me. I'm like totally stoked about it now. So that's also what's coming up on the horizon. The other thing with all of this is this week is busy because I'm trying to navigate and work all these things before I head off for vacation. And I'm excited about vacation, but one of the things I'm excited about doing on vacation is doing my business from the road. So not letting anything fall between the cracks, keeping up with everything while I'm on the road to prove to myself that if one day I ever wanted to become like a digital nomad, that I could actually do that and trust myself to still get the work done. So that's my big, challenge to me over the next the next couple weeks. So anyway, I hope your week is off to a fantastic start. If you are interested in the Sexual Energy Alchemy program, the 12-week program begins on Monday. We do have a couple extra spots. I would love to see you in that program. It is going to be completely transformational. It is. I'm so excited about what's going to come out of this program. Also, the Warrior of Light Basic Training, a 6-week program is available right now. It goes along with, it's offered as a free gift in the Sexual Energy Alchemy program, but it can also be a standalone as well if you're interested in deepening your spiritual connections, gifts, relationships with your guides, other things like that. Diving into your intuition in a deeper, more meaningful, more intentional way. Also, the podcasts. And if you know anyone who might be interested in being a guest on Dirt Road Divinity, I would love the recommendation. So thank you so much. Remember always that you are incredibly loved, always and in all ways, and you are encouraged to pay that love forward. Have a great night.